This is the Classical Cafe. I'm Caitlin Matson, and we have a green room. I welcome into the green room. It is such an honor to welcome him into the green room. Classical Chickasaw composer Jerod Tate. Jerod Impichcha achaaha Tate, I should say. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Chukma, Chinchukmata. So holishifo, Jerod Impichcha achaaha Tate. Chickasaw, Impichcha achaaha Chokat Michashawi Iksai, Shton Shalolili, Talo Ikbili, Hashlaka Sayopa, Chukmashki, Yakoke. Hi, everyone. My name is Jerod Impichcha achaaha Tate, and I am a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation here in Oklahoma, and I'm a professional classical composer.
Jerod Tate is quickly making waves in the classical music world. Somebody who is taking your tribal identity and marrying it with classical European instruments, somebody who's kind of merging these two worlds together. Tell us a little bit about your life as a musician before you entered into the realm of composition. You are a pianist, a concert pianist, correct?
Yes, I'm a trained classical pianist. My Chickasaw father, Charles, is actually a classically trained pianist and baritone, and Dad started me on the piano. My mother, Patricia, was Manx Irish, so I am Manx and Chickasaw, and Mom was a professional choreographer and dancer. So between the two, I grew up in an enormous amount of fine arts. The theatric arts actually is what I was saturated in. And my dad also, very importantly, Dad is actually a professional lawyer and tribal judge and special district judge. And he is author to our current Chickasaw Constitution. Every American Indian tribe has our own constitutions that run in tandem with the United States Constitution. So we are citizens of our own nations who are dual citizens in the United States. So I'm a Chickasaw citizen and a U.S. citizen. The reason I say that is because of my upbringing with my dad, I was raised with a beautifully robust knowledge of American Indian culture, politics, and history. And I'm just so grateful for that. So I just feel very, very connected to with my native cousins from all over North America, and it really fuels my pride as a composer in the work that I do.
So these Native American colors, themes, the ethos, translating that into a work for, let's just say a symphony orchestra. Particular challenges that you have found? Are there any even? Are there things we wouldn't think of that are challenging? You do it, and you do it in such a way where, we're not listening to something that's new age. We are definitely listening to, it's undeniably classical music.
I love this question because this is a larger subject that I really enjoy talking about. So just talking about symphonic music, I'm in great company historically. Well, first of all, there are four American Indian symphonic classical composers: Charles Shadle, David Yeagley, Ed Wapp was one, and Lewis Ballard, who have been and are doing this as well. And so I'm very influenced by my own colleagues, but also historically, Tchaikovsky was Russian and very Russian in his compositions, and incorporated Russian folk melodies, and also from his surrounding cultures as well. That's a really, really good example. I mean, Debussy was undeniably a French composer, and his music is full of French folk melody and French sensibilities. Toru Takemitsu is an undeniable Japanese composer. I mean, his symphonic works are just incredibly Japanese. Chin Young is another example of a Cambodian composer. And Bartok, of course. I mean, every composer in history that I'm aware of, like in history of classical music, was doing exactly what I'm doing. And so we're all bringing in our identities, specifically our ethnic and national identities, into symphonic composing. But I'm also surrounded by many genres of arts that are saturated by Indian country with my native colleagues. And so Sterling Harjo is a really great example. He's a Muskogee filmmaker who is expressing his identity as an American Indian. Actually, film isn't Aboriginal to anywhere in the world. I mean, everybody is on board with this new technology that isn't original to any culture, but everybody's expressing many types of identities through film. It's phenomenal, the explosion that's going on. Our poet laureate for the third time, our U.S. poet laureate, is Joy Harjo, who is also Muskogee. She's a friend of mine here from Oklahoma, and she is composing works. She's making books. which is not Aboriginal to our culture, and writing in the English language. And she is expressing her full identity as a Muskogee person in that medium. And of course, you go to all of the visual arts. Well, there's a reason why thousands of people fly in from all over the globe to Santa Fe, to the Santa Fe Indian Market, to find all of this modern expression in fine art painting that did not exist in our Aboriginal cultures. And so I am among thousands of Native artists. Oh gosh, choreography and theater, and I mean, just everywhere, textile designs, all kinds of things that are going on. I mean, we have Natives in every possible profession that are expressing their Native identity. I'm just surrounded by thousands of people who are doing the same thing in all kinds of creative fields. It's really, really a blessing to be a part of this huge wave.
And it's so true when you talk about composers for centuries now have all been their own ethnomusicologists.
Exactly. And of course, I mean, they're all being who they are and where they're from. Haydn, the reason why we have Marvel movie music is because of Franz Joseph Haydn. And his only concern was creating phenomenal music. That was the core of his existence. And so to me, it's a very joyous and celebratory process. So to get back to your question about the challenges, well, my challenge is to do as well as my colleagues. Dustin, a good friend of mine, a Chickasaw artist named Dustin Mader, had just texted me a new work that he just completed last night. And we were on the phone. He texted me as we're talking. I was like, man, you're making me have to do this well. Thanks a lot for keeping the bar high. I mean, I was, saying, you being very joking about it, but the bar is set so high by my own colleagues, both Native and non-Native artists who are living and throughout history. The bar is very, very high. So my challenge is to do as well.
We're going to listen to a movement from your flute concerto for flute and orchestra, Tracing Mississippi. This is the second movement, Tracing Mississippi. It features Christine Bailey Davis on the flute with the San Francisco Symphony. A brief synopsis of this. You seem to be very story-driven in your compositions. Tell us a bit about this piece in particular.
Absolutely. The Chickasaw Nation is originally from the Mississippi area. And so my grandmother and I have made a travel back to the homelands together. And the last time that we came back from there, I told grandmother, I said, this is going to become an orchestral work. And so this is the work that you're listening to right now.
We'll be back and talk more with composer Jerod Tate. Chasing Mississippi, flute concerto by Jerod Tate, who I just so happen to have in the green room, so generous of his time to talk about his life as a composer, as a musician, as an ambassador of the arts. I'm just going to read a little bit from your bio so people have an understanding of kind of what you've been up to for the past couple of decades. Well, first of all, anybody who watched Westworld on HBO, Jerod Tate's music was featured on Westworld. His works have been commissioned by the National Symphony Orchestra, the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra and Chorus, the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, just to name a few. There's a very long list. And then Jerod Tate is also governor-appointed creativity ambassador for the state of Oklahoma. I loved reading that. And it seems to fall in line as we are, talking earlier about being a creative, being somebody who, stands for beauty and expression and identity. Just seems so appropriate that you would be given that title. As an ambassador, did you have certain duties outside of just, existing and composing and doing your normal day-to-day?
I didn't have any specific duties, but I feel more responsibility. And I happen to be very, very patriotic to the state of Oklahoma. I love Indian Territory and I love the state of Oklahoma very, very much. And I love working with my colleagues, both Native and non-Native colleagues. We're very integrated here and my relationships are very, very beautiful. And I'm very grateful for that. So I was just in a rehearsal with a group, Bright Music Chamber Ensemble, and I was talking to some of the other players. There's a lot of Oklahoma City Philharmonic players. And I was just talking to Rod Ackman, the principal of Bassoonist, and I was like, I just can't believe that I'm here making music with these wonderful people. I love our Philharmonic here. I love our musicians and artists. And I feel very blessed to be in this area. So I just feel more responsibility to carry that message, just to show people creativity is everywhere. I mean, human beings are born beautiful, brilliant, and well everywhere. and I'm part of that. And just wherever I go, I really feel a responsibility to make sure that I'm talking to people with the exact same human language that I would anywhere else.
So circling back to being a Chickasaw classical composer,
Mhm.
I'm wrapping this thought around this.
Mhm.
You are a Chickasaw classical composer.
Mhm.
So the ideas, the themes, the traditions that you are bringing to classical music
Mhm.
are very specialized and are completely different than the much broader American Indian classical music.
Mhm.
What Chickasaw music you are integrating into classical music, different than other nations.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of tribes in the country and lots of different cultural regions, and so I express my native identity in the fine arts very different than my colleagues from other tribes. So basically, it's like we have a sense of being monolithic on one aspect, being North American Aboriginal people, and we're also very, very different. So it's both. We flow back and forth between that, and it's just like everybody else in the world. I mean, every group of people can feel monolithic and also very diverse at the exact same time, and it's
Mm.
fluid how you relate with each other. But when it comes to fine art expression, I mean, it's like all American Indians have their own individual, expressions as well, and sometimes you'll see trends. And sometimes you won't. Some people from this exact same tribe can have entirely different um, forms of expression. A really good example of that is at the time at which Tchaikovsky and Stravinsky and Prokofiev and Rachmaninoff and Shostakovich were all composing at the exact same time. Very totally Russian, totally to the core, to their bones, Russian people,
Completely
entirely
different.
different expressions in their orchestrations.
That's such
Really,
a
I
good
mean, there were
example.
some similarities. So there were some monolithic aspects, but yet at the same time, very, very different composers. So that's kind of a really good historic example. And that happens all over Indian countries. So we celebrate each other tribally like crazy. I mean, we feel very much like cousins when we visit, and there's lots of laughter and banter and everything like that. And so we'll feel very connected. And also, we love each other's diversity. And we're always learning from each other about each other's tribal traditions. It's great. It's a really, really neat and robust relationship.
We just have about another minute together. What are you working on right now?
Oh, my opera Shell Shaker, Luxi Shali, is premiering October 27th in 2024 here in Oklahoma City with Canterbury Voices and Oklahoma City Philharmonic. This opera is sung entirely in the Chickasaw language. It is about one of our very, very important Rosetta Stone legends in the Chickasaw Nation about how we received turtle rattles as our shell shakers. We're a shell shaking culture. That's our percussion sound. And our leads are all American Indian leads. So we have Caitlin Morton as the lead, and she's Cherokee. Kirsten Kunkel is one of the leads, and she is Muskogee. Mark Billy is Choctaw, and Grant Youngblood is Lumbee. So it's quite a historic event that we'll have happening here in Oklahoma City.
Thank you so much for joining me, Jerod Impichcha achaaha Tate. You are welcome anytime. I got a thumbs up on that pronunciation. Thank you. Don't mind if I do. It's been lovely talking with you, and continued success and joy in everything you do. This is just an enlightening conversation, and we appreciate your time.
Well, I sure appreciate it. Shokomashki, Yakoke.